Society calls them lazy, unmotivated, antisocial, but neuroscience tells a very different story. Because many of the people who prefer staying home, avoiding crowds, and limiting social interaction are often using parts of the brain that most people rarely slow down enough to access. This isn't about doing nothing, and it's not about avoiding responsibility. It's about how certain brains are wired, and why solitude, when used intentionally, can become a powerful cognitive advantage. If you've ever been told you're lazy because you enjoy being at home, this video isn't here to flatter you. It's here to explain you. Let's start with the brain. Deep inside the frontal region of your brain sits the prefrontal cortex. This area controls planning, emotional regulation, creativity, impulse control, and long-term decision-making. It's the part of the brain that asks, does this matter? Is this worth my energy? And what happens long-term? Research from Harvard Medical School has shown something important. When external stimulation drops, when noise, pressure, and constant social input are reduced, activity in the prefrontal cortex increases. Quiet environments improve executive function. Decision-making becomes clearer. Emotional regulation becomes stronger. Creative problem-solving improves. In other words, when the brain stops reacting, it starts reflecting. Harvard researchers also note that people who limit unnecessary stimulation often conserve mental energy. That energy doesn't disappear. It gets redirected toward planning, insight, and long-term thinking. From the outside, this can look like laziness. From the inside, it's efficiency. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings about people who love staying home. Stillness is mistaken for stagnation, and quiet is mistaken for lack of ambition. But psychology tells a very different story. Researchers have identified patterns among people who prefer being at home. Not everyone is the same. One common profile is what psychologists often describe as the wounded warrior. This person wasn't born withdrawn. They adapted. Long periods of emotional stress, burnout, betrayal, or constant overstimulation teach the nervous system to stay on high alert. Eventually, the brain learns that constant engagement feels unsafe, so it seeks recovery. Home becomes more than comfort. It becomes regulation. Neuroscience shows that chronic stress keeps the body in survival mode. Cortisol stays elevated. The nervous system never fully rests. Solitude allows the system to reset. Heart rate slows, thoughts organize, emotions stabilize. To outsiders, this looks like withdrawal. To the brain, it's healing. Another profile is the true introvert. Introverts don't dislike people. They process them differently. Brain imaging studies show that introverted brains respond more strongly to stimulation. Social interaction activates more neural pathways, more processing, more effort. That's why socializing drains them. Home isn't an escape. It's a charging station. Quiet allows the nervous system to rebalance. Without it, mental fatigue builds quickly. Then there's the creative architect. These are thinkers, builders of ideas, problem solvers. Creativity research consistently shows that original insight rarely appears during high stimulation. It emerges in low-noise states. That's why ideas come in the shower, on walks, late at night, in silence. The creative brain needs space to connect distant ideas. Solitude provides that space. Many people who love staying home are constantly designing something internally, a story, a plan, a solution. They may look idle, but their minds are constructing entire worlds. The final profile is the sensory sovereign. Highly sensitive to sound, light, crowds, movement. Their brains process sensory input at a higher resolution. That means environments most people tolerate can feel overwhelming. Home gives control. Control creates calm. When sensory overload disappears, focus returns, clarity returns, energy returns. None of these profiles point to laziness. They point to self-regulation. Interestingly, this idea isn't new. In Japan, there's a concept called ma. Ma does not mean emptiness. It means intentional space. It's the pause between sounds and music, the silence between thoughts, the space that allows meaning to exist. Japanese philosophy teaches that without space, nothing has shape. For many people, staying home creates mental space, emotional space, creative space. There is also the concept of ikigai. Ikigai means a reason to be. It's about aligning daily life with inner purpose, not external pressure. Japanese culture recognizes that constant busyness destroys balance. Quiet routines, repetition, and solitude are seen as stabilizing, not shameful. In this view, choosing a quieter life isn't laziness. It's alignment. Western culture often says, do more. Japanese philosophy asks, does this matter? Science and tradition are saying the same thing. Depth requires space. But science also gives a warning. There is a line between healthy solitude and harmful isolation. Solitude is chosen. Isolation feels forced. Solitude restores. Isolation slowly drains. Psychological research shows that when time alone becomes avoidance, when it's driven by fear instead of intention, mental health begins to suffer. Anxiety increases, motivation declines, connection weakens. The difference is purpose. Healthy solitude has direction. Unhealthy isolation does not. Being alone isn't the problem. Feeling disconnected is. That's why the most successful homebodies maintain selective connection, a few meaningful relationships, purposeful interaction. They don't disappear from life. They curate it. When solitude is structured correctly, it becomes an advantage. They don't fill their time with distraction. They fill it with depth. They read deeply, build skills, reflect long-term. They conserve energy instead of scattering it across constant stimulation. Modern culture struggles to understand this. We equate movement with progress, noise with productivity, visibility with value. But the brain doesn't work that way. Progress comes from clarity. Clarity comes from stillness. Many of history's most influential thinkers preferred solitude, not because they disliked people, but because their minds needed space to function. They weren't avoiding effort. They were avoiding waste. This is where the label lazy completely collapses. Laziness avoids effort. Strategic solitude avoids unnecessary effort. Lazy people drift. Strategic thinkers plan. The difference isn't energy. It's direction. If you're someone who loves staying home, your strength lies in how you use that space. Your home can be your laboratory, your headquarters, your place of preparation. Quiet allows foresight. Solitude allows strategy. Used intentionally, staying home becomes preparation for better decisions, better work, better alignment. The danger is believing the wrong story about yourself. Labels shape behavior. But neuroscience doesn't care about labels. It cares about function. If your brain thrives in low stimulation, if your clarity increases in quiet, if your energy returns in solitude, forcing constant engagement works against you. You're not broken. You're selective. When solitude serves growth, it becomes power. When it becomes avoidance, it becomes a trap. Self-awareness separates the two. So if you've ever felt misunderstood for loving your space, for choosing quiet over chaos, for thinking deeply instead of reacting quickly, understand this. Your brain may simply be wired for depth instead of noise. And science agrees. If this connected with you, share it with someone who's been mislabeled. Subscribe for more psychology and brain-based insights. Stay curious, stay intentional, and use your nature wisely.